All right, so today we are continuing to work in class with me walking around and helping. So instead of y'all doing a live Zoom today, you're going to be watching this video. So today we're going to be learning about vertex form. Now, in the end, even if you don't understand the vertex form, you can still just type this into the calculator. And we've done a couple of these as a matter of fact. So in the end, we have y equals. It wants you to check that point right there, which we can do in the calculator. And then it wants you to check the vertex. Now, this is very specific when you check the vertex. However, if you understand vertex form, and vertex form is usually going to look, oh, well, not like that. Okay, something like this right here. And they're going to put in an X right here and a Y right there. And the X and the Y is called vertex form. The X and the Y come from the vertex. Now, here's the thing. Anytime that it's in parentheses, like a lot of the things that we've done, whenever it is in parentheses, it's usually the opposite. And so same in vertex form. So this is my X and this is my Y. And so in vertex form, if I put this -3 in here, it's actually going to be the opposite. So I'm actually looking for a +3. So it's probably going to be this one or this one. And then the Y is going to stay the same. So the Y is just going to be -2 because it's not in parentheses. So chances are that's my answer right there without me ever having to type anything in. Sometimes vertex form will narrow it down to 2. So if you understand that the vertex goes in, now I would say, even if you think you understand it, you still need to check your answer, because if you think that you're doing it right, let's say that you put the X in, but you think it's supposed to be negative, and so you would get it wrong. So we always want to check our answer. So we think it's B, so let's go test B real quick. So we're going to go type this in. Forgot what it was already. -1/9 parentheses X. So -1/9. And then parentheses X +3, close parentheses squared. And then -2. So we're going to hit enter. Did I type that in right? Yeah, I did. So we're going to hit menu 5-1. And then we're checking these points. So the first thing that we're going to check is going to be this -3, -2. So we're going to type this in real quick. Type in -3. Okay, so it's good that -3, -2 is, shows up here. But the question is that the vertex? So it's not good enough just that it pops in right here. It has to be the vertex. And that is the vertex. So right now that's good. Then we're going to check the other point, which is -6 and -3. So -6 and -6, -3 does work. So yes, B was the answer. So in the end, you could have just typed these in, checked to see if this was the vertex, and then checked to see if that was the point. So that would be fine. But if, like I said, if you understand vertex form a little bit, it makes your life a little bit easier. All right, so vertex form, once again, when it has the parentheses with the squared. So here's my vertex. So this -5, so the X goes where the X is. And because it's in parentheses, that -5 becomes positive. So I'm looking at B or D. And then the 1, which is positive, just stays positive. So I think it's going to be D. So let's go check it. So we're going to go type in -4 parentheses X plus 5. So -4 parentheses X plus 5 squared and +1. All right, so menu 5-1. And we're going to type in -5 and see if we get, not only do we get -5-1, which we do, but is it the vertex? And yes, it is. Okay, so that's good. And then -6, -3 again, actually, which is kind of odd. So -6, -3, and yep, that works. So the answer was D. All right. All right, so once again, they give us the vertex. So 2 would actually become a -2, so it's one of these two. And then the -5 for y just stays -5. So the only one that flips is the one that's in parentheses. So I think it's B. So let's go type this in. So -5/4. So -5. Oh, I guess it helped if I hit negative. -5/4 parentheses x. It was -2 squared. Was that that? Yep, -2. And then -5 at the end. So we hit enter. Menu 5 1. And then we are typing in 2. So this +2 right there. See if it gives me -5. So we're typing in 2. All right. So once again, yes, it does have 2 -5. Is that the vertex? Yes, that is the vertex right there. And so now we just want to know, does it have that 4? So we type in 4. Does it say 4 -10? Yes. So it is B. All right. And then our last one. So vertex right here. So that -2 becomes a +2. So it's one of those two. And then the +4 just stays +4. So I think it's this one. So let's test it out. So 2 parentheses x plus 2. So 2 parentheses x plus 2 squared. Whoa, guess it'd help if I put a 2 right there. Okay. And then we got +4. +4. All right, so we're going to hit menu 5 1, and we're checking -2. Dadgummit. So we're going to type in -2, hit enter. And it does say -2 4, which is good. And that is the vertex. So now I can check -1 and see if it gives me 6. And like I said, that other point, it doesn't matter where it's at. It's just got to show up, which it does. All right. So that's kind of new. And like I said, in the end, if you don't understand what we're doing with this vertex to, find what we think is the answer, you just start typing all these in and checking these 2 points. And the key thing is that if it says it's the vertex, it's not good enough just to be on the graph. It has to be the vertex. All right. So we are continuing just to try to get better at these keywords. In the end, if you are terrible at these keywords, it's just going to be really hard to pass the STAR test because these are easy. So x-intercepts are anytime that it touches the x-axis. So I can see that it touches here and here. I have no idea where that's touching. I do know that they're both positive. This would be 2 point something. So if it, and 5 point something. So the 5 point something's good. It's definitely not touching at 4 right there. So it's not B. 5 point something and 2 point something could be. 5 point something, but still it's not touching 4, so it's not going to be that. And there is 2 spots, so this only has one answer. So the answer would be 5.4 and 2.6. Yeah, it's going to be C. So even though we don't know where it's at, by eliminating stuff, we can figure out what the answer is. All right, so next word, y-intercept. Notice we're stressing what the words are. Okay, y-intercept is where it touches the y-axis. And so this touches right here at 6. These questions always make it look like this is your y-axis, but it's actually right here where all these tick marks are. So it's touching at 6. Now, so we know it's not A and B, but when you look at this, if it's the y-intercept, then that 6 has to be the y-coordinate, which is always the second one. So the answer would be C. Axis of symmetry. So one of the things we've been saying with axis of symmetry is we see this X right here, and that reminds me that axis of symmetry is always X equals. Okay, so I'm going to let that X tell me it's X equals. And then symmetry is when you split something in half and the two sides mirror each other, they kind of look like each other. And so we draw a line that splits this in half, we hit -3. So the answer is A. All right. Maximum. So a lot of people have been confusing this right here. Maximum is like how tall something is. So this right here, how tall is it? Well, you measure how tall it is by going to the y-axis. So the maximum is the y-coordinate right there, which is 2. Zeros are where it touches the x-axis. So this is the x-axis. It touches there at 1 and at -3. So -3 and 1 would be A. Okay, maximum was how tall it is. Minimum is how short it is. It's still going to the y-axis. So you always measure height by the y-axis right there. So max and min are y. So that's 4. So the answer is D. So all really easy questions, but if you don't know where to find the answer, I got kids that on every single question always go to the x-axis, and those would be wrong. We do go to the x-axis a lot, but you need to know when you go to the x and when you go to the y. So that's kind of the tough part to this, and that's why we're doing a lot of these. Axis of symmetry. So the x and axis reminds me that this is x. Come on, equals. So I know it's not going to be y. It's not going to be d. And then symmetry reminds me that we split this in half and we run into 3. So x equals 3. Maximum, once again, is how tall something is. So that right there would be, so how tall it is, we measure it to the side. Okay, well, it's 4 feet high. I don't know what the 4 stands for, but I'm going to say 4 feet. Okay, so B. Vertex. Okay, so vertex is the stupid things don't want to work. Is the X and the Y. All right, so we find our vertex right here. Now, what I always tell people is I know this is X and Y, but we only care about the X. You take care of that X. Now, nobody wants to listen to poor old Coach Settles. So everybody finds the X and the Y, and then they go and they get the answer wrong. So, I can tell you that all we care about is the X. I can't force it to you. So all we care about is the X. We see a 3 here. 3 comes first. The only one that has a 3 first is A, and I got the answer right. Yes, the answer is also 1, but a lot of kids that do 3 and 1, the last thing they told themselves was 1, and they end up choosing C as their answer, which would be wrong. So don't let the test trick you, or the multiple choice, or whatever you want to say. I mean, this isn't a test today, but all right. So once again, x-intercepts where it touches the x-axis. So this only touches one time, and that's touching at -4. So these have 2 answers. That's definitely not it. And the only one that's touching at -4 would be B. Y-intercept. So I've been liking these here lately because it makes you think a little bit. Okay, so y-intercept is where it's touching the y-axis, but I can't tell where it's touching the y-axis here. Right here's my y-axis. So I look at my answers because I'm a good test taker, and I see 2. Well, I definitely know it's not touching at 2. So it can't be these. It could be touching at 13. 13 could be a reasonable answer. And so if it is 13, if it's a y-intercept, that 13 has to be a y-coordinate. And so the only one that could possibly be an answer here is B, because this would be an x-intercept. All right, axis of symmetry. So that x reminds me that this is x equals. And symmetry reminds me that we split this in half. So it's an x equals that's hitting -4. The answer is C. Okay, minimum. So minimum, once again, is how short this is or how deep it goes, or I don't know how you measure, but anytime we measure height, we're measuring anything, we measure to the y-axis. So how short is this? It's 4. Okay, 4 feet. So A. So minimum goes to the y-axis. Okay, vertex is x and y, but we only care about the x. So the only thing I care about is that -3 should be up front. Only one that has -3 up front is A. Makes that question so much easier too, because it's always confusing when it's -3, 0. Zeros are where it touches the x-axis. So it touches 2, 1, 0, and 1. In the end, there's 4 zeros. So just the only one that has 4 zeros is C. So, but it does match up with those numbers right there. And you can see that we're moving through this stuff fairly quickly. Well, that's because I, know how to do this stuff. And all the kids that know how to do this move through this stuff very quickly. So if you learn this, you'll be one of those people that moves through it quickly too. All right, so y-intercept, where it touches the y-axis. So right here's my y-axis. So that would be at 4. So it's definitely not these two. And so between these two, if it's a y-intercept, it's got to be the y-coordinate. So the answer is C. Axis of symmetry again, that x and axis reminds me that this is x equals. Symmetry is when we split it in half. And so it touches 2. So it's a x equals and then 2 would be A. Vertex is the x and the y, but I really only care about this x right here. So when you come here, the only thing I care about the x. This one's kind of tricky because it's right next to that 4, but that's the y-axis. So my x is 1. So it's got to start with a 1, and that would be A. I think a lot of kids on this one, because it's so close here, a lot of kids will end up choosing C, I think, because they'll see that 4 and everything in them will want to choose it. So be disciplined. Make sure you go to the x. Okay. X-intercept again. So x-intercept. X-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis. This never touches the x-axis. So it's none. I had some kids today that were real frustrated with this. And they're like, well, how am I going to learn what this is if it never touches? Which was true. I had too many of these today that didn't touch. But we want to make sure you understand sometimes it doesn't touch and there are no x-intercepts. All right, axis of symmetry. So the x and axis reminds me that this is x equals, and symmetry is when we split this in half. So it's got to be an x equals, and when we split it in half, we hit 1. Minimum. So minimum and maximum is how tall or how short, and we always measure to the y. So this would be 1. All right. So we got just a few review questions right here. I feel like we haven't seen this in forever. There's no y equals. There is an equal sign, so you cannot plug this under graphs. But it's not, because it's not y equals. This is just a basic equation. So how do we do basic equations? Basic equations are in regular calculator, and we hit menu 3-1. We do not want to forget how to do that. So this is -5x. So minus 5x plus 4 equals 3x. So plus 4 equals 3x. And then minus 12. And then we're not done. If you hit enter, it's not going to work, because to finish out, we got to put comma x, and then it will work. We get an answer of 2. answer is 2. All right, so right here, we've got another equation. So we're going to go type this in. I can just hit menu 3-1 again, and we're going to type in x minus 1, x plus 4. So x minus 1 equals x plus 4. Hit enter. Oh, so what I forget to do? Didn't work. I told you I wouldn't work if you didn't do this. I forgot to hit comma x. We're going to pretend that I did that on purpose just to so that y'all could learn what happens when you don't put it in. So this is no solution. When the calculator says no solution, it is no solution. So the calculator is awesome at no solution. It struggles with infinite because when it's infinite, it says 0 and you wouldn't know what the answer was, either 0 or infinite. So, but no solution it's awesome with. Okay, so here we got 2 equations. And so with 2 equations, we're still right here and we hit not menu 3-1, but menu 3-2. I think it was using x and y, so we just hit enter and then we're going to type in. So x plus y equals 3 on top. So x plus y equals 3. And then go down, and on the bottom, we're typing in x equals 3y minus 17. X equals 3y minus 17. And then we hit enter, and we get the point -2 and 5. So -2 and 5. All right. And then it's been a while since we've talked about domain and range. So remember that domain is x's. So immediately I can mark off anything with a y. This is when we crop our picture. And so we draw these lines on the edge of our pictures. And if it's the x-axis, we have to draw these cropping lines through the x-axis. And then we're touching -3 and 4. So -3 and 4, that says -4 and 4. All right. And then this comes down to like -3. Does it have an equal to bar? Remember that you always put an equal to bar unless you see an open circle. So -3 should have an equal to bar, but 4 has an open circle. So 4 should not have an equal to bar. So the answer is going to be B. So because 4 should not have an equal to bar. Okay, 16. What is the range? So range, remember, is our y's. So on y's, we crop the y-axis. So we crop the top right here. And then when I go to crop the bottom, I run into an arrow. And if you remember, we're not allowed to crop arrows. So I can only draw one cropping line right here. We said range is y, so it can't be the x. There's an open circle, so it can't be this one because that has a closed circle. And unfortunately, this doesn't happen much, but we have this, the y, we got the 3. It just wants to know the direction of the arrow. And, this right here is kind of tough. So if you end up missing this, that's fine, but it's going down. So we want all the numbers less than. So the answer would be C. If you didn't know and you had to guess between these two, if you're following strategy and C's an option, you should have guessed C anyway. So usually they, you'll be able to figure it out exactly. You won't have to guess when you get down to it. All right. Last 2 questions. Domain is x's, so we can get rid of the y's. Domain, we're going on the x. So if we got to cross the x-axis. So you can see it hits -4. Oh, so look at that point. First off, it doesn't hit anything over here because there's an arrow and we cannot crop an arrow. So the only line we hit is -4. Well, that gets rid of all those. So that was pretty easy. And then domain here. So once again, we're cropping the x-axis. So I should hit -2 and 3. So this has a y. It should be -2 and 3. That says +2. So both of these say -2 and 3. So it comes down to, on -2, is there supposed to be an equal to bar? So we always put an equal to bar unless there's an open circle. This is the only time we do not put an equal to bar. So there should not be an equal to bar with -2. So it looks like the answer is going to be C. 3 would have an equal to bar, which it does there. All right. Well, I know that y'all have not been doing the live Zoom with us these last couple of days, but hopefully you're really starting to get down all these keywords and attributes, and there'll be some nice, easy questions on the STAR test. All right. You guys have a great day.